Good evening, and welcome to Lord Gugu's stream. Consider becoming a subscriber today to access the exclusive Stephen Sondheim Twitch emote. Tonight's performance of Musical Theater is Good Actually will run approximately 90 minutes with one intermission, and tonight the role of guest will be played by Claire Downs. Please take this time to silence your cell phones. In the event of an emergency, please walk to the nearest exit, and don't block it like it's the Suez Canal and you're the Ever Given. Now please enjoy Musical Theater is Good Actually.
Baguette croissant, voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir? Petit déjeuner sacré bleu, merci, bonjour, au revoir. Je suis désolé, je m'appelle Pierre, comment allez-vous, mère? Escargot, bon appétit, carte blanche, apéritif à la carte, qu'est-ce que c'est cliché? Bon, diétal musical, c'est bon, c'est bon. Actually, c'est bon.
And you're welcome for that, everybody. Hello. Hello, we're back. We're back. It's been a couple weeks. It's been an exciting couple weeks. They announced that Broadway's coming back, everybody. De Blasio's getting everyone vaccinated and in the theater, so supposedly. So Broadway might be coming back. It's very exciting. Another exciting development is Mitch coming on the stream. Mike Mitchell is back in play. It's happening. Thank you, everybody, for your nice words about my theme song. It was a definite labor of love, and I'd like to thank Lady Gugu Abby for helping me a lot with doing that. But anyway, Mitch, I am in contact with Mitch. I am in contact in a way that he's regularly replying. We're good. We're going to wait for him to get back to LA, but he's going to be on the show. We're very excited. So everybody look forward to that. But enough about... I think that was all the housekeeping I had. I hope it was, because it's time to bring out our guest. Our guest tonight is an incredibly talented writer who has written for outlets such as Elle, Cosmopolitan, Vice Motherboard, The Daily Dot, VH1, and Mary Jane, and is currently a Blacklist Ex-Woman in Film Episodic Fellow and writer for Peacock and DreamWorks TV. Please join me in welcoming Claire Downs. Hello. Hello. Oh, I screwed it up already. You can unmute yourself, because... Wait.
Great.
Yeah,
Hi.
there you are. Okay, great. We're all here.
We are all here.
Yes. Smooth. It's just very good.
Bonjour.
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 Bonjour. Bonjour, everybody. Bonjour. Oui, oui. My extensive...
Bon nuit.
Bon nuit.
Bon nuit. Because you're not in the West Coast. It's
That's right.
jour for us.
It is very much nuit here. Yes.
Jour. Yeah, it's a nuit.
Yeah, very early nuit.
Between nuit.
Yeah.
Si. Yeah,
I took Spanish, and I'm pretty useless with French. But I was joking that because I really love this movie, and this was only my second time watching it for the show. I just watched it a few months ago for the first time. And I was saying to my wife that I'm going to memorize the entirety of the movie and learn French that way by just, learning this movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I speak a little tiny bit of French. I took French in high school and college, and you know what? It's actually great. Like, you can get some good pronunciation, especially when they're rhyming. They're going out of their way to rhyme words that are like the word happy is really hard to pronounce.
Mm-hmm.
It's heureuse, Heuruse.
Beautiful language.
You can rhyme that with like amuse. You can rhyme that with some words that you're like, oh, so So that if that word rhymes with that, then
Yeah.
I've been pronouncing it wrong the whole time. It's like a good teacher. But
Absolutely.
the other thing about it is it's like, hello, Lord Goo Goo, hand me that soda.
Right.
Like it's like
hello,
singing.
I'm going to the club tonight. Gonna take my girl out on a date. I'm in my garage working. Doot 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 doot. Yeah.
Yeah, like every minute thing, it's
Right.
completely sung through.
I love it. Yeah.
So like this is my first time watching this, and like I was like, wait, are they singing about gasoline right now?
Yeah.
Because the lead guy works at a gas station.
Well, he works at a auto shop, but then he ends up opening his own gas and service station.
Yes.
So this is probably the most like that gasoline and gas stations have played into a musical in a lot of ways.
But it's French gas station attendants, so they do have purses.
Right.
The male gas station attendants, they have purses.
Yeah, that's right.
You catch that in some of these states where you have to have other people pay, like New Jersey and Washington. The men that work at those, they don't have a leather satchel.
And they're all the worse for it. It's just toxic masculinity preventing them from having
a great satchel.
Their gas station attendant purse. I can imagine that comes in handy. But anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves because
we are.
We're going to talk about the movie in the second half here, but Claire, I'm just so excited to have you here. You're somebody that I've followed online for a while, and I always love yours and your husband's movie takes. You guys are always watching movies, so I was really excited to talk about a movie musical with you. So I'm very excited to get into it. But before we do that, we get to know you a bit and know the context of where you're coming from, your history with musicals, your feelings about musicals, with our little musical quiz. And that is showing how my chroma key's bad. And it's fine. Okay, so just to start, take the temperature here, see where you're coming from. Which of these two, I'm going to give you two statements, and which one do you agree with more? Musical theater is the pinnacle of human achievement as the purest and most complete synthesis of all art and performance. That's statement one. Or statement two, musical theater is an abomination before God and man and destroying us as a society and human race. Which is more true to you, in your opinion?
More true is one.
Okay, I agree. Good.
Do I still get to be on the podcast? Okay.
No, one is that's the good one. And I always say that is my not joking, unironic feeling about it. But I mean, it's a bit hyperbolic and leading. But
sure.
But
a little bit.
How have you grown up loving musicals, listening to musicals? Like, how much have they factored in as somebody who consumes a lot of culture and art, and like how much do you gravitate or not towards musicals?
Oh yeah, so I let's see, I went to theater camp in Chicago. So I grew up in the city of Chicago, and I went to theater camp in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin.
Oh.
And the theater camp was run by these two ex-vaudevillian sisters, Sully and Pearl. They were like in their 80s when they were in charge of the camp, and it was called Harand Camp, and it was just very it was a great place. I mean, we did a musical review, 6 weeks. The first 3 weeks you do like a musical review. So it's like a mixture of like songs. Like, I learned a lot of songs of musicals that aren't really around anymore. Right. And then the next 6 weeks you do like a musical with your cabin and the boys' cabin that's of your age, but you do it like where you all play different parts, and there's like 6 Dorothys or whatever. So I love musicals. And then I went to NYU for theater.
Oh, okay.
But I did not sing. I wasn't in TAP with Lady Gaga, who's 4 years older than me, and who was there when I was there. I was in a different program. I was in a program called Creating Original Works, which would say is closer.
That is much cooler than my college person that I just missed, who graduated just before I started, Amy Schumer. It's less cool than Lady Gaga. No offense to Amy Schumer, or offense, I don't care. No. But Lady Gaga, that's really cool.
That is cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. There was a Facebook group called like I Like to Kick Pigeons or something. It was like about
Early Facebook culture is very interesting. Yeah.
It was like an NYU group about how there's pigeons in Washington Square Park, and how some person was like, I like to kick a pigeon sometimes, haha. And it was just like, I was in this group and so was Stephanie Germanotta. And I actually, when I went to delete my Facebook about 4 years ago, I checked and I was still in that group. But Lady Gaga was not. But like, Stephanie Germanotta was in that group with me. And I could click on her name for like a little bit, and then I think she deleted Facebook.
Early Facebook groups were great. I mean, my favorite one was my friend Nick Jewett came up with a Facebook group called, it was for enthusiasts of ranch dressing, and the group was called Ranch with a Side of Food. And that was a good group that I belonged to.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is a show about musicals. No,
yeah.
So you did a lot of, but you were acting. You were doing straight plays, or were you doing writing then, or what?
Yeah, at NYU, I was in creating original works.
Okay,
so
cool.
that's like you both act in it, but you hang your own lights. Like you direct yourself. It's kind of like directing a one-woman show. So you learn how to write and direct, but like also then other people can be in it in your senior year. I took 1 year off of this program to study Shakespeare at a different studio, but in New York, called the Classical Studio. We did a bunch of Shakespeare. I love Shakespeare. And
Never heard of him.
Yeah, he's a niche.
Yeah, this little known guy, bit of
niche.
Yeah, it's like people don't know him, but everybody who does know him did like start a play. I don't know. Never mind. I lost. Everybody knew the joke I was going for. Pretend it worked. Yeah. So you were just doing self-devised kind of writing.
Yeah.
Did you incorporate music often, or like how much did you?
No, like by that point, like really singing, like I really have not sang since I hit puberty and everything, changed for me. I had a cute little voice once, and then I didn't really, treat it right or whatever. I don't know what to say.
It's an interesting thing. It's a muscle, so you have to like train. Like a way that I've heard people that like a friend of mine told me that he needed to, sing a few notes higher or whatever. He needed to extend his range, so he started like talking in a higher pitched voice to just kind of start pitching his voice up, and then it like over time it actually worked, and it like then he could kind of, and it's like it's a whole, but that's like singing is like training your voice, and so like I was regularly singing for a while, like when I was doing a musical a year ago and getting on this, and then now I like do these songs or whatever, and that's as much as I do. I was like trying to sing Jesus Christ Superstar last week, and I was failing miserably because it's like I'm out of shape. It's like a, so yeah, if you don't,
it's a muscle,
and especially so like, and I was singing right after I went through puberty or whatever, so like my voice like right as it adjusted or changed or whatever it was going. But yeah, if you never had that, it's like it's a muscle that has atrophied or something.
I still dance though.
Oh, that's
like
awesome.
For myself, like I
like no one's watching.
Yeah, like really, like I do it at home. I do like dance workouts at home every day. I was a pretty good dancer back then. In quarantine, I've definitely been doing it more, and yeah, like not in a way where I would ever like be like, hey, watch me, but I did some dancing over core. Like I learned some music video choreography just for me to have exercise.
It's it is an amazing cardio, great workout. It's fun. It gets you out of your head, and yeah, I mean, like, getting in, and like you said, you can learn a dance, or you can I think just getting up, listening to music, and just like bouncing around like an idiot for 10-15 minutes, once a day, like something like that. That's like, that's going to, be a good workout.
Yeah. And running is so serious.
Right. Yeah.
It's so hard. It's like your same muscles over and over again, where dance is like,
I get bored quickly.
You get bored quickly. Yeah. Do you want to know what my favorite musical is?
Oh,
I also saw a lot of, when I was at NYU, I got to see so much shit because it was like, part of going to school there, you get like free tickets all the time. Oh, my acting teacher was Michael Potts, who originated a role in the um, fuck, in the South Park musical. What's it called?
Oh, Book of Mormon. Book of Mormon?
Book of Mormon. He originated the role there. He was in True Detective.
Oh,
and
wow.
he is constantly in musicals. You could look up. I mean, he's in his Broadway database.
The name sounds really familiar. I feel like I've seen him in like cast recording, like listings and stuff.
He's an really incredible like person, an incredible teacher, and he's been in so much. He was in the Grey Gardens musical. Originated one of the roles in that.
That's where I know him from, because I did that. I did a production of that in Baltimore. I love that musical. Actually, bit of housekeeping I did forget. This reminded me, because Grey Gardens was in my first playlist that I made on Spotify, and I put it again in my latest playlist that I just put out this week, everybody, a new Spotify playlist. It's called It's 11 O'Clock Somewhere, because it's all 11 o'clock numbers, and I think the 11 o'clock number in Grey Gardens, Another Winter in Another Town, is a heartbreaker. Okay, so thank you for reminding me of that.
So I got to see so much shit for free, because it would be like, oh, my friend did the costumes, oh, such as so. I saw like every Broadway musical the whole time I was there, just to take advantage of it, or it would be like $10 or this cheapest thing. And my favorite musical is Gypsy. That's my favorite musical.
Wait, did you see the Bernadette Peters one?
No, I saw the Patti
LuPone one. Okay, because you're younger than me then, I think, because I went and visited my friend when she was at NYU, and we did Student Rush for Bernadette Peters' Gypsy. Those are very different gypsies. And actually, I have a song from Patti LuPone's. I have Patti LuPone's Rose's Turn also on that playlist. So there you go. I love Patti. I always say I recommend to everybody that has any interest in theater, show business, Patti LuPone's memoir, the audiobook. Because it's read by her, and it is dishing constantly. She talks so much shit about Andrew Lloyd Webber. She talks about how Kevin Kline was her first love, and going on tour with the Actors Company and adopting a dog that they named Scapin, because they were doing Scapin and they adopted a dog and named it Scapin, and she says it like that every time, and it's very funny.
We at the performance I saw, an announcement was made, like, so after the cell phone announcement,
the debacle, right?
And and she goes, it was like, Miss LuPone wants you all to know that tonight Rose will not be wearing heeled shoes due to a foot injury, and she wore like ballet flats, the whole, like, from like ballet, like ballerina with the strap on top. And it was like, I don't think I would have
noticed. Like,
I get it. Well, so in Rose's Turn, like, she stomps, so she's like angry, and I kind of get, like, for her, like, if they were little heels. And at the end, I believe she shouted to the audience, like, thanks for not caring about my shoes, or something, like, when she bowed. Like, something like where she acknowledged the shoe thing again. Whereas, like, if you're watching this musical, I mean, I was in the balcony, so yeah, shoes would have played. You know, like, I could see her shoes more than anyone on the ground floor, because I was in the first row of the balcony. But, like, I wouldn't have thought twice.
You don't know, though, some of those New York, queens going to see that show, they're like, what is Patti wearing on her shoe? That fucks up the whole Mama Rose silhouette. She needs that little, like, kitten heel, that little, like, or whatever. I only know these terms from Drag Race.
Yeah, but I was sort of delivered. The part that really got me was, like, Miss LuPone wants you all to know, like as if she said to the person giving this announcement, like, you need to say that I said.
Because that's what I think, to your point, the production probably didn't want to make any announcement. And she's like, no, I don't want any. No. I don't want this being in the gossip columns that, like, I want them to know that I have a condition. She is a nut.
Coming from me.
Yeah.
Like, say that I said it and I can take the heat for it. It's like, and it's like, Okay, yeah.
She's great. She's a nutcase. I mean, Gypsy is a wonderful, wonderful musical. I was talking about it because I was listening to the Rose's Turn, which I think Rose's Turn, even though Sondheim's just credited with lyrics, I think that is really one that he wrote because it is such like a collage of the other songs, and I think that he kind of was the one to fit them all together. So, and it's brilliant. The lyrics, like the mental breakdown that kind of happens within the lyrics and stuff. It's like that thing that he does so well where he just does all the work for the actor and how it's kind of written. And then like, you just have to like let yourself go to it or whatever.
Right.
So now you aren't in musicals. You haven't done them in a while, but if you were in a musical, or like, let's say you could be, a musical about you, what would be your musical theater archetype? And I'll give you some options. There's the ingenue, there's the villain, the sidekick / friend, the character actor / comic relief / old, or other. Specify. Just, you've seen a lot of musicals. What do you think is Claire Downs as a musical character?
I think I have to say ingenue.
I am proud of you for saying that. You're the first person to just outright say it, and I celebrate you for that.
I mean, as a person who writes for a living, like, you need like a dose of like narcissism and delusion, and you need to just wake up every day.
Especially in a musical.
Yeah, and you need to believe that this is my story and these are my, like. I think a world in which everyone views themselves as the ingenue is probably a good one.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you care about yourself, you care about other people.
Well, and their whole thing is that they're like pure of heart and they're very innocent and good, just like inherently good kind of.
Yeah, but I'm like Gypsy at the end of the movie.
Oh, okay.
When she's like, it's a tough fucking world, but I made it.
You're Sandy at the end of Grease. You tell me about it, stud.
I'm the ingenue after the turn.
Right. Okay. Well, I love that. I love the journey. So you're the ingenue that eventually does go dark. I love that. That's great. Okay. Perfect. We're already kind of talking about this, so I'll just like go into our next question is how do you musical theater? So you got to see a lot of musical theater live in New York. Do you go see like touring productions when they come through LA? Well, when you could. How often do you like listen to a cast recording or watch a movie musical? Seek that out. How do you musical theater?
Okay, that's great. Let's see. The last thing I saw. So let's see. I saw the touring production of Les Mis that came to LA last May 2019.
And was that?
I think
that was like the touring of the recent Broadway revival, probably. So it's a little pared down, kind of, than the original one. Is that right?
Yes. Yes. And that was us, my husband and I, sort of toying with like, do we want to get the season pass? Because in LA, like it's actually a kind of a good deal. It's expensive, but it's a good deal. So they show you all the shows that are going to come to LA. Not original productions. Like these are the touring ones, but that's kind of the funny thing about musicals in LA. It's like we're still like this back alley Western town where we get the musicals 5 years later.
Unless it's like Sunset Boulevard premiered. They did it in LA before because they loved that connection.
Yes. Oh, really quick. My other really cool musical story is that I saw the first ever production of Spamalot. Because I'm from Chicago, and they sometimes would do premieres for musicals in Chicago, and I think my parents were on an email list of something, and it was like, if you want to buy a ticket to this new musical with David Hyde Pierce and like all these amazing people, so I saw it, and it was as a teenager seeing that, it was just amazing.
Yeah,
amazing.
I can imagine. It's a really interesting era of like broad comedy musicals. Like the reason that Spamalot happened was because The Producers was such a huge success, and those and it's kind of funny because it's like hearing you talk about like the Facebook groups and stuff like that, like I think that a lot of that kind of comedy is like hasn't aged at all. I mean, like the producers, the original, the source material, of the producers is great, but like they added a bunch of stuff to it, and like they made it very much for the 2001 audience, and then I mean, I think Spamalot is maybe a bit better because it's just kind of having, I don't know, a bit more fun, but like some of those things they like they're kind of very mid 2000s comedy at times.
Yeah. So back to LA. So I was gonna get us like the thing where you get like 7 musicals for the price of X, and it's still very expensive. It's like expensive enough where I'm like, if I don't see everyone, or if I don't like everyone, I'm gonna feel dumb. And I know people who have those, and that's sometimes how I get to see things, because people like, we can't use our tickets in our book. Give us a couple $100 and we'll like 100 each, and you'll get like really front row seats or whatever. But I thought about it, giving it to my husband and I as like a joint gift for Christmas. And, you know, for 2020, I just didn't like what I was seeing.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, you know, 3 out of 5, I don't know if I like, but 2 out of 5, like Hello Dolly and like a couple other things I was like really excited about. And then I bought Brendan something else for Christmas, and then
dodged a bullet.
Pandemic happened, but it is a cool deal. And also for theater, like, because I have a lot of theater connections, I'll get friends down, but it often is not musicals. Often it's plays.
Yeah.
Being like, come downtown to the Amundsen, I'm doing this, you know.
Well, I can imagine
play, that play.
In as much, like, you know, I don't really know much about the LA theater scene in as much as there is, but I imagine that of all the regional theater scenes, it probably has the like lowest proportion of musicals, as opposed to Chicago. Yeah, when I lived in Chicago for a few years, and I remember the Addams Family musical started there too. I think it's especially comedic musicals because it's like Second City, but like
right.
Chicago, like a lot of those big equity houses, are gonna have musicals, or at least, you know, a lot of them. New York, DC, certainly. LA, I'm not surprised. Like, it strikes me that it probably comparatively is not as many opportunities, especially like non-touring productions. You're like, how many local productions are you gonna have, you know, of a musical?
Yeah, I see in the chat someone's talking about Hadestown. Actually haven't seen the fully realized Hadestown. I've seen bits and pieces of it because my directing teacher for 3 years at NYU was Rachel Chafkin, who directed Hadestown. So
she directed my friend at a show at Roundhouse here in Bethesda. She's very talented.
Yeah, she actually told me to drop out of college. Yeah, I was like the weirdest thing ever. We had a coffee, and I was like, I'm going to start writing comedy because I was already doing UCB at the time.
Oh, okay.
And I was on a UCB sketch team for 6 years. And she told me to drop out of college. It was so weird. She was my teacher, and it was like, I don't think you can say that.
I love that.
And
brutal honesty.
She's a really cool person. Yeah, I mean, maybe I should have.
Well, especially,
really expensive.
Yeah, I was gonna say NYU is a arm and a leg, but yeah.
Yes, but there were things that I got out of it that if I had dropped out when she told me, I wouldn't have gotten out. Like, it was really, I'm in the rare camp that's like, it was worth it. It's too expensive, but there are things that I got out of that theater education that to this day I'll be pitching a show, and I'll be able to reference these plays and these musicals, and like that education. I don't know if I would have gotten if I had just done comedy and just stayed in Chicago into comedy. And I know it's very privileged to say that, but I'm in the camp of, I think it was. Well,
yeah.
A good thing.
I mean, if you have the access to it, or you have the education, especially when you've already put in all that time, you should see it. I mean, you know, you can. I don't want to tell people what to do, but you know, the case is that you should see it through. And yeah, there's a lot. And I'm also a theater major. I actually have a BS in theater, which I think I love. I love that it's a BS because it's just science. The science of theater. I had to write a 20-page paper about how playwrights interact with their plays after their first productions. And I talked about Edward Albee and Samuel Beckett and Susan Laurie Parks, who is the only one that's not an asshole of those three. So that was kind of how I compared it.
Yeah, Susan Laurie Parks. She's great.
She's cool.
So I feel like I got us off track, though.
No, that's fine. No, this is perfect. This is exactly how this show goes, and it's great. But while we're talking about musicals, this is the next question. What musicals do you think, because you've seen a lot, should be more popular or beloved than they are, and what musicals that are really popular should be less popular?
Okay.
This is where the takes come. We're looking for takes.
Oh my gosh. All right.
Like, what's a hidden gem that you've seen that, like, you love and it doesn't get talked about enough?
Urinetown.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're ready for a revival of Urinetown.
So I live in D.C., and we had a year where there were 3 productions in 1 year. It, like, comes in cycles, at least around here. And I was in 2 of those 3, and I love that show. I did it in college as well. It was lock, stock in college. I love Urinetown.
You know, there's a lot of musicals that we have to just... This is a hot take.
Do it.
I think that there's musicals... So there was a trend a couple years ago that that was like, let's take old racist and sexist musicals and then like switch them around. But due to the way rights work, you can't change lyrics often, or you can't cut stuff. So it ended up being that they just had to do the musical as written, but then be like, so I am not including Oklahoma in this narrative because I really want to see that, the Woklahoma, as they say. So
the like bake sale Oklahoma, where you're at the swap meet,
and my
or
friend
whatever.
My friend Allie got a Tony for it.
Oh my god!
So I really want to see it, but there were other ones where, like, I think, you know, State Fair has like the song about domestic violence.
Oh, are you thinking of
it or whatever?
Carousel.
Oh, Carousel. Mm-hmm. Carousel, right? Where he's
Billy Bigelow.
Like, women.
I mean, it's literally like what the show's about. Like, it's not like it's not like a plot point. It's like he is a abuser, and it's about his forgiveness.
Yes,
once he dies.
About how women kind of deserve to be slapped.
Yeah,
sometimes.
it has
by their husbands.
Gorgeous music. Like, it has some of their most beautiful like score like music. It has "You'll Never Walk Alone," which is a beautiful song, and that gets done a lot.
Song.
But yeah, you're right. It's a shit show.
I think like what I think, like, it's not about like let's cancel the musicals. I also don't think there should be disclaimers. I also don't think there should be woke versions of the existing. I'm like, one, write new ones.
Mm-hmm.
All the new musicals, give funding to people who have stories to tell and are composers who want to write songs, because I know there are out of work composers who are ready to go. Mm-hmm. One, who are talented. Two, I think these old playwrights need to the estates of these musicals, of the composers, of the lyricists, of the playwrights, they need to be cool with like, yeah, we're going to take this song, but we're going to write 5 new songs, and the plot's not going to be the same. And, like, I don't know, like...
especially those, like golden era, like, classic musicals. I mean, yeah, it's like, it's the way that our copyright law kind of constrains us so much.
Yes.
And with theater, that's especially a form that's about like reinventing or restaging, and like it's like that's sort of baked into it from the beginning, is that you want to see different takes.
Right, because that's why Shakespeare is good.
Right.
Because you can cut stuff, mm-hmm. and you cannot make it 6 hours. You can make it a 90-minute thing if you want to do it that way.
And you can take like bits and pieces and make your own like collage. Take a bunch of the sonnets and like do something with it. Yeah, like Mm-hmm.
You can set parts to music. Yeah, I think that's true. And I also think my other take on this is, in a white high school, no more doing Once on This Island.
You know?
Like, I just feel like everyone did Once on This Island. Not my school, but I saw ones where everyone was white. Like, no.
I am gonna have to do a Once on This Island episode soon. I think I'm gonna... I think I know who I'm going to reach out to about who I want to be on that episode, because they don't have a great track record in general. Flaherty and Aaron's.
Aaron's, yeah.
Because Ragtime also, you know, is not the most fun. I mean, that's the source material a bit too, but also, I mean, like, it's pretty, you know, not torture porn, but like just being like bad, a string of very tragic bad things happening to all the black characters. And then Once on This Island is like racist, colorist, like it's about like the upper class people are lighter skinned and they can't be with the darker skinned, and then there's like and it has this beautiful kind of music that sounds like what they're going for, but then like the uncomfortable thing is that these are both white, composers, and so like them doing it's cringy.
This is the thing, and I'm like, why not just write something new? My friend Chris, who's a composer, he works at Manhattan Theater Club, and he does accompaniment, he teaches piano, he went to college with me for composing. It's like, when are they gonna do? I'm tired of helping them redo Carousel so that it's not about abuse, and like lightly,
right?
But keeping the original. Like, why not just like let my friend Chris like compose a musical,
right? And
give grants. Like, they should be doing. Broadway is going to die if it's going to be SpongeBob only and Aladdin only. I know, but
SpongeBob's good.
I know, but I'm saying
no. I know what you mean. Well, it can't be just like the IP and just
IP
like
of Disney or like.
But it's been like in that place for such a long time now, because it really was like since the 80s. No, but since the 80s really was. I mean, like that's what started it on the track, and then but especially it's like accelerated over the past 10, 15 years or something. That it's all movie adaptations, pre-existing IP. It seems like that's all it is now. And when there is something original, like a Hades Town, or like a word that is banned from this chat, but is a musical you may have heard of. We don't say the name of it, but I think we all know what we're talking about.
Voldemort?
The Voldemort the musical.
Voldemort musical?
Voldemort, as played by Lin-Manuel Miranda, is I think that because there's just something new and original that has a lot to do with why people are like, oh, this is so great.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like, I enjoyed myself at the Legally Blonde musical, but like, I think like there's should be more room for a Hades Town than there is, and it's I think part of it is Times Square is the epicenter of Broadway. Times Square is now for children. It didn't used to be. Times Square used to be like peep shows and like was more like Hollywood Boulevard, which is why I like Hollywood Boulevard better because it's for adults. And now Times Square is like the M&M store and the Disney store. And so if you take your kids to the M&M store and get a picture with fake Elmo, you want to take them to Aladdin. Like, it's a wholesome. It's become like anyway. Diatribe over.
No, I love it. Binging Games says that they can't wait for productions of Hamilton in like white high schools and watching recordings of that. I think that will be fun. We will.
Shut that down.
Only high schools are allowed to do that, I think. But I don't know. They've said, but they've like the rights have like cautioned against it. But they're not actually available in high schools yet.
It's going to happen. I'm with happen. Jane. It will
well, it's like
happen.
Already happened. I remember when it like first came out, there were like at like show choir concerts or whatever, or like talent shows. Like they were already like all white renditions of the Schuyler Sisters, including the Aaron Burr rap in the middle. Everybody was white. I've seen this video. It's very funny.
Lord Gugu, have you seen the Jane Krakowski one of In the Heights? We need to watch. Can you watch VOD on the show?
Is that the is that the miscast cabaret thing where they like switch?
Yes.
Okay. I have not seen that. I've seen Titus and Tina Fey singing "You're Nothing Without Me" from City of Angels, another one of my favorite shows.
This is one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. I'm going to send you the link.
Oh boy. You know what? I love this. Yeah. We can make this happen. Hang on.
You just need to watch a little bit of it. This is like perfect for this show.
Okay.
You're gonna die. You guys are gonna die. I've watched this thousands of times.
Oh my gosh. Yo. Wait. Oh no. Oh.
I don't want to.
Am I having a video issue? I'm having a video issue right now. So I'm gonna fix that video issue on the break, and we are going to watch it. We're gonna watch it in the episode when we go to break. We'll watch it when we get back. but I'm excited. I love all those. Like, there's so many opportunities for that in New York. I mean, the other great one is I remember that once Jack did a late night stream where he played all of the benefits that they do every year with the mayor. Where with the Broadway actor, like, and it's based around one show usually. So like one was How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, which Nick Jonas was starring in at the time. So it's like Nick Jonas with Michael Bloomberg, who is the least charismatic, like worst like actor. And there's like they did one where it's like Spider-Man, and they're like pulling him up in the thing, and he's like, "Oh wait, I'm the Spider Bear," and it's like. It's great. There's and I like
That's bad.
Why? Like, why would you do that? I guess it's like that's sort of the stuff you like have to do almost. They like make you do. Anyway, this is let's get to the end of this quiz now. And again, back to 11 o'clock numbers. In the musical of your life, and pretend you can. You know, you're a great singer or whatever, and this is you as a musical theater ingenue character. What are you going to sing as your 11 o'clock number? And it can be a song from a musical, or it can be a pop song, or even a song that doesn't exist. To just be like, oh, a song like this.
Oh. I think it would be some sort of song like Elton John's I'm Still Standing.
It's great. I think
Like,
that's the 11 o'clock
yeah.
number in Rocket Man, the movie.
I believe so, yeah. So I just feel like,
After he hugs
Good
his inner child in the group therapy in his brain. I don't like that movie very
yeah.
much.
I think it would be like that. Because the thing about artistic pursuit is that you can't quit.
Right.
You can't quit. And it's the hardest thing. And, you know, I've been, I've done a lot of, since leaving college, like I've been a bartender, a nanny, a full-time nanny. I was like, I taught improv. Like, I've been a temp. I worked at like, all these like crazy jobs, like these like stupid jobs, just so that I could focus on writing. And then sometimes I'll see people I know quitting, and it's okay to quit, but I didn't quit yet. And I'm not going to quit. And I think that's the hardest thing, is to just not quit. I've been told to quit.
Right.
People told me to quit.
Well, and then
But
there are times you'll know when to quit. You know what I mean? Like, there are times to quit, and you'll know when that is. But like, it's you just have to like go right up until that.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing about artistic pursuit, is you just can't give up. And it's like, that's the thing I always like. I'm still standing here. Like, I'm still here. Like, people have told me, when I came out to LA, I interviewed for almost 20 writer's assistant jobs. I have a spreadsheet, and I didn't get any of them.
Ugh. Yeah, I mean,
I'm still here.
Yeah. I don't know if he's still in the chat, but I want to shout out my friend Alex, who was he was like, all this stuff was lining up for him last February. He had a show that was opening the Mountain, what is it called? The Mountain Digby. That his friends were opening a very great comedy show that they had all these cool people involved with and guest stars coming in, and they were supposed to open March 13th or whatever, and ended up having to not have a single performance. So it's like, and then like all this stuff, like, and then all this stuff fell apart, and it's just like, you just got to keep going. And I'm he's kicking ass, but I'm just shouting him out because he's my buddy. And I think I have this video working now. So actually, let's see if I can.
This has nothing to do with my very sweet 11 o'clock number.
I love your ingenue number. Okay.
Sweet Charity is kind of like a busted ingenue. It's kind
I'm
of
not
like a busted.
I need to actually get more familiar with Sweet Charity. I know numbers from it. I'm a huge Fosse head. I'm like a big Fosse nerd. Even though he isn't, I don't want to act like talk about somebody that would absolutely be canceled. Holy shit. And somebody that's I don't even want to think about.
I know, but All That Jazz is like a masterpiece.
That's one of my favorite movies.
That's one that, talk about underrated. Not that anyone could do it. Maybe now that he's dead, someone could do it. But that's like, oh my God.
Oh,
that's what they think. At NYU, they think I'm going to come out 4 years later with that product. That did not happen. But that's like their ideal, is All That Jazz.
Yes. Okay. All right. Wait.
Get ready for this video chat. You guys are gonna love it.
No. Okay, I got it. We are going. Oh, and then let me, so you can see it too. How do I?
Oh, I've seen it. I actually have seen it plenty of times.
Okay,
Don't
great.
worry.
Okay, so
I've seen it thousands of times.
We'll play this for everybody. Here we go.
Lights up on Washington Heights. Up at the break of day, I wake up and I got this little punk I gotta chase away. Pop the grate at the crack of dawn, sing while I wipe down the awning. Hey y'all, good morning. I am Usami and you probably never heard my name. Reports of my fame are greatly exaggerated, exacerbated by the fact that my syntax is highly complicated. I immigrated from the single greatest little place in the Caribbean, Dominican Republic. I love it. Jeez, I'm jealous of it, but beyond that, ever since my folks passed on, I haven't gone back.
This is just actual lyrics from In the Heights that she's just doing Lin-Manuel's part in the Heights.
In a Kangol hat.
This is, speaking of a show that seeing white cast do, I saw like so many like youth theater productions, mostly white, doing In the Heights. I mean, like seeing just like those productions happening.
Wow.
Like, talk about that. All right.
Yeah, you got the gist of it there.
I mean, that's basically, wow. I think everybody needs a break to recover from that, specifically. So we are going to go to a break here. Yeah. So I'm really good at transitions. Yeah, everybody will be back in 5. So let me hear a thank you 5 in the chat. So it's 8:52. Be back at around 8:57, everybody, and we are going to talk the umbrellas of Cherbourg when we get back. All right. We are back. How's everybody have a good break? You know, I did a classic thing that I do. I poured my water, but I left it over there. So hang on. I will be right. It's right there. I just got to get up to get it. All right. Now we're ready. There's a lot to talk about here. I need to make sure that I was going to stay hydrated. So, Claire, the umbrellas of Cherbourg. I don't know if I'm even saying the name of the movie, right?
Cherbourg.
Cherbourg.
And parapluie, which is like the craziest word.
Right. Le parapluie de Cherbourg.
De Cherbourg.
De Cherbourg. The umbrellas of Cherbourg. Yeah. That's the movie we watched. You hadn't seen it before, and I'd only seen it once before. Have you seen other Jacques Demy movies, or do you know like this?
No, what? I don't. I have not seen.
So this
I
is
thought he was maybe Jonathan Demy's father. And it's spelled completely differently.
Yeah,
Jacques Demy.
Demy is.
So the trilogy, you mean like Parapluie is the middle one of the 3? I haven't seen the other 2. No.
Yeah, so this comes in between Lola, and then after is the what of Roquefort, the something of Roquefort. That's and it has characters that carry through into it and stories. Character in this movie, Roland Cassard, that we'll talk about in a second, he sings his song to Genevieve's mom, and that's actually the song that I quite brilliantly parodied at the beginning of the show. And that is him singing, basically describing the events of Lola, the previous movie, where he tried to woo Lola and failed, basically, and then now here he is trying to get Genevieve.
Got it. Does it explain why he has like a case full of jewels that look very fake at the beginning?
I don't know. I props of the time, and like this is the thing is that I am so ignorant of any movie before 1970, and this is 1960. What year?
3?
Four.
No?
1964. Yeah.
4.
And yeah, but it's, I mean, this is one of the most like well-regarded movie musicals, especially French, and this movie is very lauded for its use of color, its art direction. I mean, like, it really is very, very pretty to look at movie. Did you feel the same way?
Yeah. So my review of the movie is that it's an important film to see, especially if you care about color. I definitely think that like the colors are so shocking. Like it'll be like a girl in an orange dress in an orange headband against like bright orange wallpaper. And it's the brightest orange you've ever seen. So I think directors who are looking to understand what like color, chromed films like Almodovar definitely plays with color, probably saw this. I know La La Land, which whatever, I know he watched this as a inspiration.
So,
And I think that, yeah, it's really beautifully shot. Like the directing
mhm.
is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damien Chazelle. So I thought the same as you that like, yeah, he was inspired because I always that's where I first heard of this movie actually was in all the stuff around.
Really?
Yeah, all the stuff around La La Land of people being like, oh, he's inspired by these movies. Umbrella is the Cherbourg is what I kept hearing over and over again. But actually, the follow up, the Roquefort, the whatever of Roquefort, was more his inspiration. I mean, it was both of them because the love story, kind of the bittersweet, melancholy, kind of sad love story, was maybe what he took from Umbrellas. But Roquefort is much more dancey, to the point where actually Gene Kelly's in it. So it actually, and there's not really dance in Umbrellas of Cherbourg at all. There's a scene where they are dancing like on a date, but that's not really like, it's not a dance number.
No.
So it's very strange as a movie musical because they're singing through the whole thing, but
it's more of an operetta, right?
Yes. And so what watching it for the second time, what really was interesting to me about it is that like the color and the fact that they are singing are the two like sort of conscious reality breaking choices that they're making, and that's just very interesting to me. But everything else seems so, at least trying to be grounded in reality and real relationships and sort of making a kind of complex decisions and compromises or whatever, really kind of very like almost like a indie kind of romance or something, or some kind of like romantic drama story on top of
yes yes and sort of it's very French. We also should mention that, like,
yes,
if you think that like, oh, I'm watching a French movie, they're not going to like eat a baguette within 5 minutes or ride a bicycle in the rain. Like it is like the platonic ideal of French like stuff. Like also like there's like an out of wedlock pregnancy, mm-hmm. where someone is like cool with the baby, like the dad is cool with the baby being from another family. Not saying that's like explicitly French, but I think French people have a different relationship, a less puritanical relationship about out of wedlock pregnancy than they did at the time in the 60s. Yes. And I also think that it's kind of like, I mean, it's extremely French. It's also sung through. Do you think it succeeds as a musical?
Well, it's interesting. It's not really doing what I've ever seen many. Really, I can't think of it. I'm hard pressed to think of any other musical that kind of tries to do what it does, where the actual score, the music, is gorgeous. Michel Legrand is the composer, and I think he's brilliant. Right. And it's that sort of kind of like Les Mis thing of 7 or 8 melodies that get repeated and repurposed in different ways. But that never bothers me. But it isn't. like what was interesting to me was hearing that there's like the theme from Umbrellas of Cherbourg called "I Will Wait for You," and I was like, "What the hell's that?"
Yes.
Because like it was odd to me to think about these songs being done out of context because they're just so married into the story that it's like it's one complete
flow.
piece. Yeah, that I see it as just like one,
Yes.
or at least 4 complete or 3 complete pieces because it's in parts, and those are very clearly kind of their own things.
Right. They also are trying to do like an epic time jump. It's
Mhm.
very European at the time and very 60s also.
Right, and it's
Part
also
one,
the like
part 2, part 3.
perspectives kind of thing because like the first part is about so the story primarily focuses and it's like a pretty simple story, like we'll be able to say what happens, describe what happens pretty easily, but it concerns the romance of Guy and
So
Genevieve
French.
and Genevieve, not Genevieve, Genevieve and Guy,
Genevieve. Yeah.
and not Guy,
We-
Guy. They're young and in love, and she is 17 and he's 19, I think, so they're like really, really young. But he,
Right.
and this is the other thing that kind of really ties it to its time, and I think that there's a sort of an interesting thing about love and then the forces beyond your control, and like where sort of you get tossed about and sort of where your heart holds on to and when it can let go, and sort of there's like a lot of cool dynamics in that.
Yes.
But basically he has to go into the service, into the military service, and that's
For
gonna
the war in Algeria.
in Algiers, yeah. And so 2 years that he's going to be away.
Mandatory.
Yeah. And then of course, as soon as he leaves, she's like, "Oh, oops, I'm pregnant." And her mom is a very, very like protective. I think she's an interesting character because there's a read on the movie where you could say she's like, or there's a way you could have done this movie where she's like a clear kind of villain, but she's kind of always pushing Genevieve for security, and I think it comes from a place of her being a single mom, her her mother herself, and
Yeah.
and
And she's also the best singer in the movie. Would
So
you agree?
so here's the thing.
No.
Well, I just found this out today. They're all dubbed. Every single one of them. Not a single one of the actors is actually singing.
Then.
They are every
Well-
single one dubbed, which I celebrate. I say bring it back. You don't have to make Pierce Brosnan sing. You can just dub him.
Or
Come
Emma
on.
Stone. Emma
Yeah.
Stone doesn't have to sing. I don't want to see Emma Stone sing.
Just dub. I am supporting of dubs,
Agree.
bringing back dubs. Like we didn't need to hear Audrey Hepburn sing. She's still brilliant in My Fair Lady. It's fine. And then there's another like beautiful singer that gets to be heard, her beautiful voice, rather than hearing, Emma Watson in Beauty and the Beast. Ugh, the worst.
But so that character. Oh, you should also say that the mom owns an umbrella store.
Right, so that's
Which is extremely French.
and the umbrella store is the Umbrellas of Cherbourg. I think that's what it's like. The shop is called, and she also like, of course, like early on, like right away, gets some notice that she owes like an exorbitant amount of money for the time, like
80,000 francs.
yeah. And it's just like an insane amount of money that they're just not even going to have. And lo and behold, they kind of randomly come upon a wealthy benefactor who's very, very interested in Genevieve, even though she's visibly very pregnant. He's still
And very young.
right.
And they have no interaction.
Very
Let's be clear. They meet in a store. Then she has to leave. Then she leaves. They don't talk. Then the next time they meet, she has to go on a date with her boyfriend where she gets pregnant, and she runs off. And then like the next time they meet, she's really pregnant and like has morning sickness and
Right.
is like
so
ill.
he's a very successful jewelry dealer, and he has lots of money. And so yes,
Yeah.
so he's frequently out of town, but he stays in contact with her mom, and her mom is really like rooting for this relationship. But it's like at the same time, but they could again make him, a really sniveling kind of like evil kind of guy, but they make him just like a very like he just wants to take care of her and like kind of be there for her. I don't know, like it is kind of weird in that like gross like like of the time kind of thing, where it's like he sees this beautiful, like you say, very young girl that's in a desperate situation of being pregnant, and so it's like that like kicks in. Like I almost feel like, or at least that's one read on the character, like it kicks in for him of like a very protective, like I must be the one to care for this poor little ingenue.
Right. And I know like a lot of musicals at this time have this, but like his song is like, ever since I saw Genevieve, my life has been meaningless without her. I'm like, you have ownership over this teenager you like saw once and now your life is different. Like, that's weird. And I know it's a musical, but like,
Yeah.
it's very it's very sexist.
It is a
ownership
musical.
over a random woman.
Right, and it is a musical, but sort of to your point, or sort of like what I was saying before, that like it's the relationships don't feel so like exaggerated the way they typically do in a musical. Like I was saying, like the mom isn't like an overbearing, like comedic, like kind of, I mean, she is a bit comedic, but it's like in a place of real, like my favorite part of the movie is there's Genevieve is one of my favorite parts of the movie. Genevieve is talking to Guy, and he's like, well, just tell your mother about us. Like, you know, what's she gonna, he's like, what's she gonna say? And Genevieve's like, she's gonna say, what are you talking about? You're too young at this age, blah, 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 blah. And then there's a sharp cut to her, and the mom singing like basically the exact same thing she sang. I was really like that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, these are real people that like they know each other. I don't know, like they feel more real, so that that typical leap that maybe in a more musical you could buy it a bit more, but it is a bit weird. It might be consciously a bit weird. I mean, it does kind of like, it doesn't want you to feel great about her going with him. You know what I mean? Because spoiler alert, ultimately, you know, Guy's letters are sporadic. She's not constantly keeping contact with him, and they're so far apart. And, you know, her mom, like this financial situation and this ticking clock of the baby that's coming, that eventually she's like, okay, yeah, we'll get married. And I think that, and it's clear
You're
that
the dad.
Right. And it's clear that she's not, you know, in love with him, and he knows it, but he's still fine with it. And the mom is great with it, and they go like, and they're in the they get married and they go in the limo, and the mom gets in the front seat, and like and eventually she closes down the shop. In the interim, there's a break. It like jumps forward in time again after that point, and Guy comes back, and the shop's been closed down. They've all moved to Paris, and Guy's, you know, on his own at this point. And
Guy has a dream that he said in a song of opening up his own gas station.
Right. Just basically having his own shop, like, his own auto shop, like that you see him working in the beginning. The other thing about Guy that we failed to mention in the beginning is that they really humanize Guy a lot with his relationship to his godmother, who he lives with and cares for, although she also has a caretaker named Madeleine.
Who's sort of like the girl next door, who pines for Guy, but it's clear Guy doesn't see her
because Guy is very in love in the beginning with Genevieve, so they don't see her. But then Guy comes back from the war, and his godmother's sort of filling him in on sort of what happened while he's gone. Madeleine arrives, and it is like one of the best eye fuckings in cinema. She sees him, she's like, hello, Guy, because she knows that he's single, and she's like, you're ready. And then of course over time, well, Guy is also a mess. He's just like a drunken lout for a little bit in the movie.
I love when he's like, I'm gonna go drink my troubles away, and he orders a glass of white wine. That's so French. And it's like the smallest glass of white wine you've ever seen.
It's like the little sherry glass. It's like,
he's like, and he's like, another, and they're like, sir, are you sure? And he's like, yes. And they give him another one, and then something happens, right? Like he gets into a fight with somebody in the bar, and then he's like, you have to leave. And so he leaves the bar, and he's like stumbling around after only having like 2 small glasses. Oh, he also gives 100, basically what we're meant to view as $100 bill for these 2 glasses of wine, because he doesn't give a fuck anymore.
Right. Well, and
he goes, change.
And he goes, is it a sex worker, or is it just a casual hookup that he has?
No, it's a sex worker. He goes into a brothel, sort of like a, not really a brothel. It's like a bar where there's only hookers, run by hookers. Sex workers. And he goes in and he picks out a girl, and they have sex in her neon purple bedroom.
Yes.
This is what I think that the people in the chat need to understand. Think of the brightest color. There's at one point a scene where the mom and the daughter are wearing neon pink, and the wallpaper is pink and red, and
Yes.
it's like your eyes like hurt a little bit, and they're singing every word, like hand me that pencil, hand me that paper, like every minute word is sung, and it's the brightest colors. Like it's a bit of a sensory overload.
But it's and it's from the outset, and I think that and it does a good job at the beginning of the movie is almost like the most like aggressively like music, and it's singing to kind of like exposure therapy you into it, like, you know, dive full in. We're all just singing through this. But the sex worker's name is happens to end up being Genevieve, or like when he hires her, it's like he thought her name was like I forget, it was like Jean or something, and then after they have sex, she's like, it's actually Genevieve, and he's like, oh my god,
I hate this. And then he goes back home. No, this is devastating. Right. This is why you don't go to a brothel.
Well, yeah, because then he like had spent the night. I almost get the feeling
he slept there.
Yeah, and so he goes back to his godmother's, and he walks in, and he's all like, morning after, like, you know, walk of shame, and Madeline's like sobbing, and then he stops, and he turns around, and he's like, what is it? And she goes, and she says, you know, Elise died, his godmother, and it's very, very devastating. Yeah.
I think one thing we need to also talk about here is in this dark period for him. So he served in mandatory military service for 2 years, and he talks about like how he has enough money to live off of his pension.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's also French.
Fucking France. I know.
And you know what? And if they don't,
our veterans are like homeless.
And in France, the reason that it is because if they don't have that, they fucking burn their streets down. So, you know, I'm not advocating for anything, especially because terms of service on Twitch are what they are. But the French have some things very right.
Imagine just like having enough money from a military service to open whatever store you want or live off of it.
Right.
That would be 2 years, just 2 years.
Yeah.
Not 8. Like, that's amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, at this point, Madeleine is like, I don't want to be with you because you're in love with Genevieve, and I don't want to stay here because it's too sad because she's gone now, and it's very, very sad. But then Guy is like, no, look, it's you. Like, let's do this. They like go, and he's like, no, I love you. I can be with you. And this is always what I think is a very interesting dynamic in this movie, is because I think that he is more in love with Madeleine for sure than Genevieve is with Roland Cassard. You know what I mean? Like, not that she's like obviously like second choice, which is like nobody wants to be that. But
no, he settles with her.
At this point, though, he has already been able to be like, okay, well, Genevieve, I'm cutting that off. You know what I mean? Like, he's depressed, he's despondent about it, but it's like, it's done. It's heartbreaking, but to him, it's done.
Have you read that book, 6 Million Frenchmen Can't Be Wrong? It's actually very good. It's definitely, I know the Emily in Paris people read it, but it's about it's 2 Canadian people who are fluent in French, who end up having to work in Paris. And they talk about like, it's like a pretty low percentage of French people believe in monogamy and soulmates. Mm-hmm. And like the concept that there's only one for you, like that is it's not really French. And the idea that you would have like, well, this woman fulfills my wife and mother quotient,
right? But
another woman could fulfill my sex quotient.
The Gumar,
okay with it.
The Gumar,
Yeah,
as
it's
the
like on.
mobs have, yeah.
Yeah, it's like everyone's kind of like on board with this concept, or like if your husband has an affair, then you just have an affair to
Right.
make yourself feel better.
Right.
And it's like they did statistics on it. It's like really high. So I have to imagine in the 60s, like people were just like, yeah, like Genevieve is my true love, but my other love is this other woman, and I love her for what she gives me. Because she also, Madeline encourages his business. She encourages him to stop like drinking and have kids, and she kind of grounds
And
him.
that's how he knows her first, as like a caretaker. So yeah, it's like so like with him like now ready to get into this domestic place of wanting his own shop and is like really get his life kind of. And it's also like, so it's an interesting movie that in the portrayal of like young adulthood transitioning into like responsibility adulthood kind of, in a way of like, and there's way like in those sort of whatever compromises or the fates that that make you be end up wherever you do. And I also just, we should point out that Guy, like, well, everyone in this movie is so hot, is just gorgeous. I mean, like, they're very, very extremely hot.
Yes.
I will say
Catherine Deneuve
oof, I mean,
looks the best she's ever looked.
Unbelievably beautiful. But Madeline, no slouch either. Very, very gorgeous herself.
Oh.
I mean, and Guy is like chiseled, like.
Yeah.
Although I should say that the men, Guy and Roland Cassard, neither of them are French. Those actors, Guy is Italian, and Roland Cassard is Swiss. So that's French men. They can end up looking like Gerard Depardieu, so you have to be careful. So I think they went to Italy and Swiss for that.
I feel like if we did a reboot of this, Guy would be Timothée Chalamet, if that helps anyone.
That would make
he's
sense.
kind of like skinny and kind of he's kind of a fancy boy.
Yeah, he's very beta. He's very, very beta, and like
very beta.
He knows it though, and he's kind of like okay with it. It's interesting. He's an interesting guy, and that character is in Lola, which now I need to watch. I need to see the whole trilogy now.
Are they all musicals?
The first Lola has some music in it. I think there might be like performances of some kind, but it's not a strict musical. They're not musicals like this is, I don't think. And Roquefort has a lot more like expressionistic kind of dance numbers and that sort of thing. That was the big surprise for me coming to this movie with La La Land being my background, was that I expected them to break out in dance numbers, and we've said it, but there aren't structured musical numbers. And so the reason that I really loved it is because it reminded me of my number one guy, Stephen Sondheim, and that it's the music more serves to the story and the emotion than trying to make songs that like this is this song and we like this song and this is it's even to an extreme, because like the way that the numbers kind of go in and out of each other and stuff, it's like it's a continuous thing.
Yeah, I think that it doesn't. Okay, so if I was talking to an 18-year-old who was studying musical theater and was a singer, I would be like, just so you know, like, this isn't that kind of musical.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it doesn't really, each song isn't like, you're not like, oh, that was an amazing performance of this song. Mm-hmm. Like, the songs don't come front and center.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And in fact, when I first wanted to watch this movie, like a few months ago, as my wife and I were like scanning through, it's on HBO Max, and so we were I was scanning through the musicals, HBO Max, like I do, and I saw it, and I was like, oh, I always hear about this. Let's watch this. It'll be great. And she's like, are you sure? And I was like, what? It's like supposed to be like a really like fun, like it almost has like a Wes Anderson-y kind of feel because of the like aesthetic, the colors and stuff,
Yeah.
And so
this is like a movie I would have loved in high school.
Yeah.
Like in high school, I really obviously like I loved Wes Anderson. Mm-hmm. I loved like twee stuff, like classic millennial. Like I loved all the twee stuff. I loved 60s. I love new wave. back then. I don't really like it now, but I did, and and emo music, and like this is like the
It's very
look,
emo.
right? But this is like these are the kind of vintage clothes that I used to go buy,
Yeah.
and this like that the girl wears, and this is the that sort of Brigitte Bardot-esque early 60s like look is like what I liked, and colorful twee shit is what I feel like, yeah, but like would I say this is a top musical for me? No.
Hey, thanks, Dr. Fuzz, for the raid, everybody. We're coming to.
Are we rating?
Yeah, but sorry, we're coming towards the end. We just have a few minutes left here, but hey, this is the best part of our talk about The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, Jacques Demy's 1964 film. Mega Drivers, thanks for the follow. But yeah, so it's funny because it's everything you're saying. It has all the twee, it has all those like the Wes Anderson kind of quality, but then at its heart, it's a very melancholy, sad story about losing love and I should say we haven't talked about the ending. Now the last scene in the movie it's the epilogue, and it's a long time later. It's maybe like a year or so or two. No, it must have been a few years later because they have a boy who's like 2 years old or so. They have a little toddler, Madeleine and Guy.
Francois.
Yes, that's right. And that's something that, thank you for reminding me, that's something that Guy and Genevieve talk about is what they want to name their child. And they said Francois, whether it's a boy or a girl. And so...
It's Francoise or Francois. And
right.
I believe it's a girl. I think it's a girl named Francoise.
Right. I think that's right. So he's at his little Esso station, which is such a great location. I don't know. I just love the look of it.
Cute.
And
really cute.
And it's snowing. It's Christmas time. This is a Christmas movie. And it's like snowing like crazy. And pulls up this really nice like Rolls Royce or something. It's a really like luxury kind of car. And
yes.
And Guy's wife and child have just left to go to the market, and they're gonna come right back. And who drives up but Genevieve with
in a fur coat and a beehive, like a huge blonde, just a tower of hair.
She looks rich as fuck. She
looks very expensive.
She's very and to a T, very Betty Draper, and not just in look. I think actually that's kind of what's going on with her a bit, is some Betty Draper, with what that character was going through.
It's very like the horror, the love that I don't feel for my marriage I've put into buying things.
Right. Well, she was driving through and she made a detour to come into Cherbourg because she hadn't been here since they left. And she's and of course she stops to get gas, and there's Guy. You find out that her mom died a year ago or something, or last fall, which is kind of interesting because what her mom was, the reason that she was pushing her into this marriage is she's like, I'm not going to be around forever. I don't know what, the shop isn't doing well. She's really worried for her well-being. And then it's kind of interesting that so that, I mean, I don't know, and so all these things, she's very in this relationship, but then you definitely get the sense that she's never stopped holding her candle though for Guy.
Yes, it's a very good scene.
Right, as opposed to Guy, who seems a bit more put off, honestly, by her being there. It's she's kind of screwing it up because it's I had moved on almost, and then it's here you are again, and it's wakes it back up or something, and it just leaves it. They have a little talk, and it's very sweet, and Francoise, the daughter, sits in a car in the middle of a snowstorm with the windows open. so crazy.
We paused it. So the snow is falling.
It's snowing like crazy.
The car are open. He's like, "Excuse me, sir." It's one of those gas stations. "Excuse me, sir, can I have some gas?" Francois walks over. Guy walks over. She looks up. She's like, "Oh, it's Guy." The girl is playing in the car. She gets out. She just is like, "Let's talk inside, babe." She goes and talks inside to Guy. Francois in the car with the car off It's snowing and all the windows are open. It's like child abuse. Like,
she's cool.
in America,
She's packing the snow on the side of the car. You see, she's like packing the snow against the window. She's like,
in America, if you were at a gas station and you left your child like that with all the windows open to go like buy a candy bar, someone else would be like, "Hey, somebody's kid is outside." Like, that is like, we pause and we're like, wow, France rules. Yeah, fuck those
she
kids.
put a sign in the window. She said, it's okay. She's listening to the AC's on. She's listening to her favorite music. She's got cigarettes. She's got a bottle of wine. It's like very French.
This little girl has no gloves on. She's just sitting in the car playing. She clearly had enough. I mean, that is like, I was like, are they going to go back? Are they going to go? What about the little girl? Like,
right.
Are they going to leave the little girl? Are they going to go in the back room and have sex right now?
Yeah, because there is like an attendant that's working that's not Guy that like goes and he comes back and he's like, oh, you want regular souper? And she's like, whatever. And it's like, that's like the most rich thing too.
Super.
She's like, okay. He's like, super. And she's like, okay, whatever.
She's like, I don't care if my car has
whatever it needs to run.
Now.
I have money. I don't care.
She doesn't care. And then that attendant, I thought was going to be like, by the way, your kid is in the car, and he's just talking about gas, and then he goes and fills up the tank, and then he like comes back in, or he walks through. So it's like he's not watching the little girl.
Yeah,
that's wild. You would never do that in a movie here.
No, it is a very like funny aspect of an otherwise kind of. All right, have a good stream, Jane. Thanks for hanging out.
Thanks, Jane.
It's a very sweet little melancholy, bittersweet kind of scene. You get the sense that they are both glad to see each other and also like dread this because it's like gonna stir everything up after maybe they felt like they've found a place for themselves. But yeah, it's a nice little sad love story. I mean, I think I liked it more than you did.
And then you pull out the
ending.
They pull out. It's so beautiful.
And Madeleine's returning with little Francois, and they've got their stuff from the market.
Driving away.
Yeah, and she's driving away, and it's like,
that was a good scene. I thought that was one of the best scenes in the movie.
It's a nice little conclusion, and it's very small. Even like though it's obviously they're still singing and stuff, it does feel very like quieter. It's like it says epilogue. It almost feels like kind of like a coda or something. It's like this is what ends up happening, and it's like I don't know. I really loved it because it feels like it just feels very adult, like of like that things don't resolve neatly or like the way you think they're going to, and you might be unhappy about aspects of it or how things went, and then you have to find the joy that you do have or whatever, or I don't know.
I mean, I saw they did try to do a stage. There's been stage adaptations. Did you see who was in the one in the West End? I got one recognizable name for me right away.
It was I saw Joanne. What's her name? Who I saw? Yeah, Joanna Riding, who I saw in Merrily We Roll Along at the Menier Chocolate Factory production, which is amazing, and she's so good in that. But that was the name I saw. Who are you talking about?
Cynthia Erivo was in one.
Oh, now I see it. She was Madeleine. Oh, Cynthia Erivo.
I didn't know she sung.
So that was 20. Oh, you didn't know Cynthia Erivo sang? Okay.
What musicals?
Okay.
Sorry.
So The Color Purple revival.
Oh, The Color Purple. Yeah. Okay.
The revival that
I haven't seen. Okay, I have not seen that.
That's how she got famous. Like her performing find like her performing at the Tonys, the live performances of it, the soundtrack. She also sings in what's that shitty movie? I didn't like the movie that much, but she sings in it.
She also did the Sister Act that they did.
Okay, yeah. She was in Sister Act. What was the movie that has like
the one with the Hemsworth?
Yeah, with the Hemsworth and John Hamm.
In the desert, yeah.
The Bad Times at the something
Royale.
The El Royale, yeah. I didn't like that movie that much.
I didn't see that either.
It was kind of confused. I didn't know what it wanted, but it was like, oh, we have this woman in here and she sings really well. Let's have her sing. And so they like found some excuses for her to sing.
I mean, I know her from Widows and from other
She's
like
great in Widows.
film projects. And she was Celie for 2 years on Broadway, in Color Purple. But yeah, she was in. I would be interested to see a stage adaptation of this because, like, how do you end that musical?
Right.
What's the reprise?
Yeah.
What is the song? Like, I couldn't tell you. Also, Roland Cassard, who sings, I think the song that you parodied is the most famous song in the musical. Do we agree that that's the song?
So actually, this is
Tell me.
This is a good transition. Hang on. Okay, everybody, the windows are gonna get screwed up for a second, but it's gonna get fixed. So just don't worry about it. Stop stream. Hello. Okay. Oh, never mind. Oh. I am stupid. This is great stream show. Why was it? Okay. All right. Hey, welcome to the messed up cropping Twitch stream. I'm Bobby, otherwise known as Lord Gugu. Okay. All right. We're back. Yes, that was the Go Off Kings. That was Dan calling in. All right. So, hang on. Is this streaming for you yet? Is it? Can you click on that? No, I haven't played. I'm sorry, talking to you, to Claire. Sorry. It is.
Click on what? Oh, yeah, I can click. Sure.
Okay, great.
I didn't know I could click on things.
Yeah, no, so you can watch. Okay, great. Okay, it's showing this video. Okay, we are going to watch. So this is from the BBC. This is, I think this is actually a very, very beautiful performance. This is, so the man at the piano is Michel Legrand himself, and he is singing with Nana Mouskouri, who I guess they did a lot of recordings together, since he does like a lot of duets and things. And this is an English translation of the lyrics. And so this is what I would say is sort of the most famous. And I think this is what when I think of Umbrellas of Cherbourg, this is the melody that comes in my head. I think this is sort of the main theme. So here we can listen to this.
The clock will tick away, the hours one by one, and then the time will come when all the way the time when you return, find me here and run straight to my waiting arms.
If it takes forever, I will wait for you for 1,000 summers. I will wait for you till you're back beside me, till I'm holding you, and forever I'll wait for you.
Anywhere you
Where we are,
Anywhere you go, every day remember
what a
how I love so in your heartbeat. But in my eyes, I know that forever I'll wait
We love a key change. We love a dramatic key change. So yeah, like it's crazy that is a song from the movie, but like when you're watching the movie, you don't think of that being like a song. Like that's like,
Yeah, I
it
mean,
happens outside the garage.
Also, let's be clear, that's the English version.
Right. Yeah, no, they've translated and they've done some stuff I think to make it more a single kind of, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's great. I mean, I think I've heard that played in French restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think French people do associate it with like, their culture of the last 50 years in the same way of like Edith Piaf or something.
Right.
Like it might be on a playlist. Like I've definitely heard it before. But it's not like one of those songs. I mean, you've got it on the. I mean, it's a melodramatic musical.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that is the most famous song, and it's an extremely melodramatic song.
Right. Yeah.
The song starts by her being like, 2 ans, like I'm gonna wait 2 years of my life, like, and it's in a way of sadness that you don't see like a 17-year-old from a 60s movie in America, like a deep depression.
Right.
It's like it's very deep. The French are very deep.
Yeah, it has that whole depth, and I mean it's beautiful music, and it really, I don't know, it's great. I mean, I really love this movie. I recommend it if you haven't seen it. It's definitely worth a watch. It's on HBO Max. I think it's good, actually. Oh, I wanted to point out, Michel Legrand did actually end up writing one stage musical. It's called Amour. Well, the English-American version was opened as Amour. It was called something else in France. But that is based on an old French movie, absurdist kind of French movie, about a man who can walk through walls, who gets the ability to walk through walls. So that's very easy and fun to stage. But that has a very beautiful music as well in Amour. I remember listening through that score, and that's very great as well. So I was very excited just to get to know Michel Legrand, kind of like learn about him, and I think he's a really interesting composer. Oh, the other cool thing about the movie before we go, I want to say is, we talked so much about the color, and the color is actually a very, very interesting aspect because there's a whole hullabaloo about the restoration of this movie.
It went away.
Right. Well, because so when they made it, it was made on what's called Eastman negative stock, like the kind of film, and that rapidly kind of fades. So it faded to the point of being almost unusable. But when he was filming it, Jacques Demy knew that it was going to do that. So he actually had 3. Okay, I'm just reading from the Wikipedia because I don't know what this actually means. He made the 3 main yellow, cyan, and magenta color separation masters on black and white negative films, which do not fade, and those had greater longevity. So then in the 90s, after Jacques Demy had actually passed away, but his wife, Agnes Varda, a very famous and great French filmmaker.
Really famous.
Yeah, in her own right. She got to oversee that restoration. And then the other really cool thing that happened was then, again, when it got put to digital, that Michel Legrand himself got to oversee the digitizing of the sound as well to make that so and filling out the score and everything to make it like so he got to, and so I just think that's really cool that people that were so connected to the work got to actually kind of see it, and so that is a really special thing that you get to see it as he like kind of intended it with those bright color, like, because you're really not going to see the movie if it didn't have those like bright.
No,
that's so
if
much
you
of what it
couldn't
is.
see it with these colors and this wallpaper, the craziest wallpaper you've ever seen in a movie, that's supposed to be serious. Like my question is, so it was available to be watched again in 2013, right? That's what I thought I saw.
Let me see what the exact timeline. Digital version, digital version of the film was released on Blu-ray in 2013.
2013.
The 50th anniversary,
This is why this is like, again, something I totally would have watched in high school, but like didn't really have, like, because it was gone. I mean, it was away. Like there would be no way for me to watch this, except if I went to like a French cinema
Yeah.
and saw it.
Right,
or
'cause
there
I
was,
think
like, the French
The
club or something
restoration
had it.
happened in the early 2000s, but I think then it like screened
Yes.
cinemas and stuff, and that it didn't come to home video, I guess, until 2013.
Yeah, I like vaguely remember in high school, because I took high school French, them being like they were showing it somewhere. But because I was watching this, I was like, why didn't we watch this in French class? Because it's like a great way to learn French, because like the rhyming, and you're like, oh, like, they're choosing these words to make it rhyme, so there's another way to say this. That's because it was not available for teachers to show kids.
I guess there was some print was available, because my wife actually was saying that in her French class
She watched it.
They did at least watch parts of it, which is really funny because she went to a very like conservative Christian private school for high school, and it's like there's a pregnancy out of wedlock, a man hires a sex worker, like there's a lot going on.
Yes, but he is a veteran. He's a veteran though.
Okay.
He's a troop.
Her teacher had her own copy, might have been bootleg, who knows? But she had sources.
Yeah. Because it definitely would have been something I would have been so into as a teen.
Yeah. It was fun to watch, though, a few months ago for the first time, and sort of have my, preconceptions. Because that was the thing that Abby was saying, when she was like, it's not just that pretty Wes Anderson movie, like, it's very sad. And, like, but it really has, like, a great, like, movement to it. It's a fun watch. And it's not very long. It's 90 minutes. And I love a short movie.
Yes. And unlike a lot of French cinema from the time, it actually has a point.
There's a clear story, defined characters that have arcs, and it's satisfying from a narrative.
It's not just like watching a girl take her top off through a keyhole. It actually has a purpose.
Right. Yeah.
I was surprised there wasn't more nudity in it, but
yeah,
I guess that's just because it was a musical, probably.
Yeah, I guess a 64. Yeah, I don't know. The French standards, who's to say? Maybe it could have been a G-rated movie, and had Genevieve be topless the whole time, and it still would have gotten by the French censors, probably. So who knows?
That's right.
Well, Claire, this is such a really, really fun talk. I really love this movie. I'm glad that you had an exciting time watching it. I think musical theater is good, actually. Do you agree? Do we have to?
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's the conclusion.
Yeah. Musical theater is great.
Over
other art forms? Come on.
That's what I think.
Like mime?
Puppets?
Sculpture? Puppets? Like, it's above.
Right.
It's above opera.
It is.
It's better than opera.
Well, it's more accessible. Which it's hard not to be, but
yes.
it's not like it's super accessible in its own right. Okay, so this is the part of the show where I hype next week, and it's really funny that you mentioned SpongeBob before, because next week I am so excited for our show. We are doing a doubleheader, we're talking about two shows. This is, of course, the Lenten season. We're getting near to Easter. And we had Jesus Christ Superstar a couple weeks ago. Before that, we did Tommy, who's also kind of a Christ figure, messianic kind of guy. And so next week, I think we have two figures from pop culture that also have a very Christ-like aura about them. And they have, like I said, huge pop culture figures that then also had musicals made. And my guest will be Megaspell, and we will be talking about Shrek the musical and the SpongeBob musical, both of them.
That's great.
So get ready for that. So it's like completely 1964 Jacques Demy, like French movie, and then we're just gonna go to right in the corporate muck of Broadway.
You have to answer the question from that meme, which is, what is Shrek's age?
Okay, we'll look into it.
That's like a big internet question.
I also know that, I don't know if you've ever seen those like low budget tumblers, like low budget Milky White in Into the Woods, or low budget Beasts in Beauty and the Beast. There's a low budget Shrek tumbler, so I plan to have a lot of fun with that as well. I'm really looking forward to it. But Claire, this has been such a fun episode. Anything
Great time.
you would like to plug before you go here?
Well, when my Peacock show comes out, it's for ages 8 to 12, but if you're older than that, you're allowed to watch it. So I'll put the promo for that up. That should be this summer. And then, yeah, I sometimes write celebrity stuff for The Dip right now, which is like a subscriber only website, but it's fun. Yeah, that's all I've got going on right now.
I got your Twitter handle up there as well as your website, so if people want to check out stuff you've done, they can do that. I like to look out for everybody. So Claire, thanks again. And yeah, until next week, everybody. I don't have a sign off. I just kind of
stay hot and stay rich.
Yes. Okay. Bye.